Today's story. So, as you know, last week Rabbi Yaakov passed away, the very famous, beloved Mashpia in Ole Torah. He passed away in Parshas Pinchas. And the famous story with him, many famous stories, but the most famous story is when he was kidnapped and beaten and his beard forcibly removed. And he was screaming, "Cut my hand, cut my fingers, take them off, don't take off my beard." But they did, and they left him virtually in his underwear on the Williamsburg Bridge. Told the story on Shabbos, was Parshas Pinchas, and that was the height of the terrible war, not much a war, between Satmar and Lubavitch, which thank God is history. It's history. So, the Pinu just passed away at the age of 87, regarding complications of COVID. And so they just published, I got now on one of the WhatsApps, stories that Pinu told by Fabreg. So we'll share some of them. I'll share two right now. The first one, he says like this, that in Samarkand, there were two places in Georgia, where many Lubavitchers fled during the war. It was Tashkent, where my mother was, and my grandparents, and Samarkand. And were famous chassidim in each place, and the conditions were terrible. People were dying of hunger there. And but they survived there, by and large. So he said that in Samarkand, that's where he was as a kid. He said, the yeshiva depended on Verbrengenish. Without Verbrengenish, there wouldn't be yeshiva. What does he mean? He says there was no money. People were dying on the street from illness and from famine. And to give a penny to Temchet Mimim was mamash mesidas nefesh. And he said it's not something that the ones who were in charge could even go to the house and say, by Verbrengen, you could ask for it. By Verbrengen, they used to pay, and people would give. So it's not for the Verbrengenish, and Timchat Mimim couldn't have survived. Now, a story from that time, also a very strong Montreal connection. By the way, this is Pinu Yaakov, when he first got married, or he was a bacher. He was a bacher. Bacher was a mashgiach here in Yeshiva, talking in the early 60s, maybe late 50s, but. And people remember him from those days. Pinu was, we can't judge, but like from our eyes, a Bainini from Tanya, Pinu was a Bain. From what we saw about 50 years, is that Avedis Atfila and what came out of his mouth, and the just like worked on himself constantly. Never a pass. Ovid Kabbalah soil. Every hero from the Rebbe was done till the end. No compromise. So he tells like story, another Montreal story. This really needs to be told at length by those who really know the story well. And Peretz Mochkin, this is the father of Beryl Mochkin, which you all know. So the Peretz Mochkin was a big chassid and a beloved mashpia, appointed by the Rebbe to be mashpia here in Montreal. So he had a son called Yoske. Actually, there are two sons, Yoske and Mullah. They did not come out of Russia together with all the Lubavitchers, Peretz included, and Beryl as a kid, after the war. You know the story that after the war, the Russian government allowed Polish citizens. There was a window to go back to Poland, and all the Lubavitchers got out then, and they were concentrated in Paris. My grandparents, my mother, they all came out on false Polish passports. These were Polish Jews that had died. And they got their passports and adapted. It was fought with danger. And this Yoske and his brother Mullah and Label Mochkin, who just passed away last year, the brother-in-law of, used to come to Montreal all the time in MTC. The brother-in-law of Chaimer Minkiewicz, my two sisters, they were very involved in making these false passports and risked their lives. But this Yoske didn't come out. And it came out in 1966. And his older brother, Mullah, could have and wouldn't leave his brother behind. These guys are giants. These were legends in their family. The story has to be told. I mean, I think a book was written, but legendary figures. You see the Nefesh they had. Here's a story I'm going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you, my father-in-law, Rabbi Treitel, told me that Fabrengen, in 1966, when they came out, they first came to Canada. They couldn't come to New York. But Rebbe orchestrated the whole thing because then Canada was doing a deal with Russia, a wheat deal. And the Rebbe arranged that Rabbi Kramer, that the Canadian government and Russia needed Canadian wheat then, that the Russian government should be a clause to allow the two Mochkin brothers out. That's part of the deal. So they didn't go to New York, they came to Canada. And the parents was living here still then. My father-in-law remembers that Fabrengen, Toshin Chavov, when they came out. The whole Amashk, the Simcha, and the cartwheels, literally the cartwheels, somersaults and the cartwheels, and we can't begin to imagine. They gave up on them and they came out. He said Yoska never had children, and he was a tremendous Baal Mesilas Nefesh. So here's a story with him. When they arrested a Mullah Prus was a good friend of Rabbi Yoska Mochkin, he's a son, Shliach in Boston, in Tashkent. Tashkent is where my mother was, my grandparents. So the Russians arrested him because he was very active in the whole Temchit Tmimim underground. So this Yoske, the parents' son, had connections with the officials. So some Chassidim went to the parents and said to the parents, that they should ask Yoske to do something for this Mullah Prus. So Yoske went to the office. They entered the office with a sack full of money to bribe him. That's how it worked. How do you get the money then? To free Mullah Prus. And he's putting his life in danger. And then he ran immediately to train to leave Tashkent. But what happened was that this officer, they were suspicious of him, the higher ups, and they behind the door saw the whole thing. And this higher up, I don't know what happened to him, but he was forced. And they went after Rabbi Yoske, and they arrested him. And he was sent to Siberia for 5 years. He was arrested later again and sentenced for 20 years. That was later. That's what happened. That's what happened to him. I think he got out after 3. But he did this knowing, this is the Mesilas Nefesh, Abbas Yisrael. He went into the lines then to bribe an official to save his buddy. Ended up being Hashgach Pratis in the same labor camp, at least the first time around, but not the second time around. His friend Mullah Prus, Mesilas Nefesh for another Yid, and he sat in. He was arrested and banished for this effort that failed. The Rebbe said, Mesilas Nefesh in Russia is one thing. Ata Tetzaveh. The whole thing is, and we had the koyach from Ata Tetzaveh, from the discussions, that this kind of resolute Mesilas Nefesh here in the world of plenty and harchava, to do so b'simcha v'tuv levav, with joy and gladness of heart. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Good to see you, Yossi. Yossi, have a wonderful day.